Good afternoon. My name is Honor Feedy, and I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's NAESP National Principals Month webinar on avoiding school leadership burnout with Principal Baruti Kafele. So before I begin, Baruti, let me tell everyone a little bit about your background. A Milken national educator, internationally renowned speaker, and best-selling author, Principal Baruti Kafele has excelled in the capacity of teacher and principal. As a teacher in New Jersey, he was selected as the District and County Teacher of the Year, and as a principal, he led the turnaround of 4 different New Jersey urban public schools, including Newark Tech, which was 3 times recognized by the U.S. News and World Report magazine as one of America's best high schools. He is also the author of 8 books, including his national bestseller, The Principal 50, and most recently released the book, Is My School a Better Place Because I Lead It? So, Baruti, we're so pleased to have you this afternoon. I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Honor. I'm pleased to be here. Good afternoon to everybody out there in the webinar land. You know, this is, we're just about at the end of National Principals Month, co-sponsored by NAESP and NASSP. So I just want to, as I did in the beginning of the month, on my social media platforms, just want to salute all the school leaders out there, particularly principals, but anybody that falls under that umbrella of school leader. I salute you because the work that you do is incomparable. It's tough work, which gets us to our topic, which is avoiding school leadership burnout. So when you think about the work that you guys do on a daily basis, the work I did on a daily basis for 14 years as an urban school principal at the high school level and the middle school level, it was tough work. I love the work. I have no complaints nor criticisms whatsoever of the work, but it was tough work. Everything that could happen in a school falls on the shoulders of the principal. Everything good, everything bad, or just everything falls on the shoulders of a principal. So with that, as you all know, it is very easy if one is not careful to burn out in this business. You think about the title I'm using, Avoiding School Leadership Burnout. Burnout can happen anywhere, right? As a parent, one could burn out. As a friend, one could burn out. In any occupation, one could burn out or be on that downward slope toward burning out. It's very easy to do when one is not careful about burning out. So what I want to do is just talk about a few strategies to avoid it, because, you know, I guess in terms of the folks that registered to be a part of this webinar today, that means you probably know something about the work that I do. So I get to travel almost on a daily basis to a different location, a different place, a different conference or school or whatever it is, district, to talk to educators, and most of the time with principals. So within those conversations, in a conference room and in a breakout session, in a cafeteria, in a library, wherever it is, the topic of burnout comes out a lot. Principal Kafele, how do you keep yourself up is the question that's asked so often. How do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself inspired? How do you keep the fire blazing? Those are the questions that come up ever so frequently. So with that, Honor, if you can go to the next page for me. I'm saying here, first and foremost, you know, some time ago, I don't think really too long ago, but some time ago, this concept of thought partnership had entered my orbit. I had always talked about thought leadership, you know, in terms of just the usage of social media and positioning oneself as a thought leader. But then somewhere along the way, I don't know where, when, but this concept of thought partnership came into my orbit. And I stopped and paused. I said, thought partnership. That sounds like something. So as I explored it and gave my own meaning to it, meaning my own experiential background, and used that to contribute to what I thought this meant, I said, as it relates to avoiding school leadership burnout, as it relates to avoiding burnout in general, whatever the capacity may be, because there could be some folks watching who are not even in leadership. You may be aspiring leaders, or you may be teachers who just wanted to see what I had to say about this topic. Well, I'm saying here that toward avoiding burnout, one has to have that person in your life, professionally speaking. That's your person. The slang that we may use outside. That's your dude. That's your gal. That's your guy. That's your person. But professionally speaking, this person that the two of you can trust one another, can bounce information off of one another, are there for one another, can learn from one another, can grow from one another, but also supportive of one another, can empathize with one another, can sympathize with one another, can relate to one another. So when one incorporates a thought partner into their orbit, into their practice, that I've got this person or these persons who I know I can bounce things off of. I know I can be vulnerable with them. I know that I can share information and it's not going to go anywhere because they're there for me. And then it reciprocates. We're there for each other. So now we put that in the context of avoiding school leadership burnout. That thought partner and that person who's being equally vulnerable with you as you are with this individual, this person can look at you through a different set of lenses than the lens that you look at yourself. And here you may be thinking, I'm doing this work because I've got to do this work. I've got to go full throttle. I've got to give it 100%. I've got to go 10, 12, 14 hours a day. I've got to spend those 7, 8 hours on Saturday, those 7, 8 hours on Sunday, whatever it is that one feels they need to do it. They need to work at that volume. And then here comes this thought partner that's looking at you from afar. They're saying, wait a minute, principal. Wait a minute. Slow your roll. Pump the brakes. Slow down. You're going to drive yourself into the ground. You're putting too much into this. And see, you, in isolation, you may not recognize that. And then you may have your fan club, so to speak, the people who support you and cheer for you, and they're rooting you on like, yeah, I admire you, all this work you put in. You're so dedicated to these children. So in this regard, they're of no help to you because they're cheering you on. They're applauding you, saying, wow, I admire your work ethic. Because, see, I've had those people. Not only did I have those people in my life, I still have them in my life. They're applauding me. They're cheering me on for my work ethic, not realizing that when I'm way up here and I'm putting in those kinds of hours and doing that kind of travel, I'm doing myself a disservice relative to my health, right? And I learned that the hard way, and hopefully I'll be able to get into that a little before we close out. So, but that thought partner who's going to be brutally honest with that, because you've asked that person to be brutally honest with you. That's why we're calling that person a thought partner. So in addition to the academic realm in terms of the thinking about teaching and learning, this person is there to help you to keep your life, right? If I could be very frank about it, right? So now here's this person saying, wait a minute, do you really need to put in a 14-hour day? Do you really need to arrive to work at 6 a.m. and leave at 9 p.m.? Do you really need to do that? Let's look at a few things, right? Do you really need to have your hands into every aspect of that building? Are you that, are your staff members that untrustworthy that you don't trust them, that your hand has got to be in everything, every detailed thing in your building? Is that what we're saying? So here's this thought partner to remind you that you are a human being. You are not a machine. But when we're operating in isolation, in a vacuum, and we don't have that individual or those individuals in our lives, in our space, then we fall vulnerable. And next thing you know, we're overdoing it. So the first thing before I even get into the crux of what I wanted to talk about today, I just wanted to highlight to all of us that if you don't have that thought partner in your life, see about getting that person. But again, it's got to be someone trustworthy. It's got to be someone that you can be vulnerable with. It's got to be someone that you respect. It's got to be someone that you hold in high regard. But it's got to be mutual. And now the two of you are in position to grow together, right? Honor, hit that for me. And I want you guys to feel welcome to chime in. Any comments, any questions, any concerns, anything, disagreement for that matter. Feel free to just put it on in, type it on in, so that we can have that conversation. And what I'll do at in intervals, I'll respond. Other cases, I'll just wait until the end, and I'll respond to whatever comments, whatever questions or concerns that you may have. Let's jump into it. It says, keep your fire, capital letters, bold print, italicized, in quotes. Keep your fire blazing all year long. And in a nutshell, what I mean by that, every one of you watching, every one of you who will see the archive, I feel 100% confident in saying to you that before the school year started, before staff returned, before students returned, you were on fire, ready to make things happen, ready to take your school to another level, ready to take it to a height that was previously unimagined, unthought of, yet conceivable. Right? That's where you were. You were ready. It's a new year. Whatever last year was, good or bad, it is in the past. It's in my rearview mirror. It's behind me. I'm getting ready to take it up a notch to another level within my leadership. Now, that was in August for some of you, September for others. Now we're going into November. And I know that, quite frankly, there's still many of you out there who have maintained that level of fire. You're still blazing. You're there. Those folks exist in leadership. But on the other hand, there are some of us out here, we've lost that fire because life happened, right? We were preparing throughout the summer, and then school opened. Life happened. So real life challenges came into the building. Real life circumstances came into the building. Real life issues and concerns came into the building. And the question for you is, were you able to maintain the fire that you brought with you to start the new school year? Right? That fire that you said, man, we're taking this thing to a level that we have not been. Our kids are going to soar at levels that they've never soared before, because I've got this renewed energy, this renewed excitement, this renewed enthusiasm, this renewed fire to take my youngsters, to take my staff to another level of accomplishment. So let's look at 12 ways that we do that. Honor, go to that first one for me. And it says, how often, and I pose these self-reflectively. I want you guys to look within yourselves. If you know anything about my work, every book I've written is comprised of self-reflective questions. It's all I know. I'm a reflective practitioner. So I don't necessarily give information. I help folks to draw it out of themselves, right? I like to be reflective because a lot of times the information is right there within us, but we need a mechanism to pull it out. So here, this is asking, how often do I study my game film? And game film is just I use it as a slang for how often do I engage in self-reflection? That's what I'm asking. In the world of sports, the teams watch film of themselves, film of previous games, and film of forthcoming or subsequent opponents, and they analyze that film. They dissect that film. They break that film down, which informs their practice and preparation for the next opponent. So in educational circles, I'm always asking educators that if in the world of sports, film is so important, so critical to their success as a team, how often as an educator, how often as a leader, how often as a teacher do you analyze your own film? And what I mean by that is, how often do you analyze, how often do you engage in self-reflection? How often do you engage in self-assessment? And at what point do you make the self adjustment. See, that is just absolutely crucial. You and I, toward avoiding burnout, cannot go from day to day to day without hitting the pause button and just engaging in the analysis of ourselves. We've got to reflect on us. What attitude did I bring to school? What practices did I bring to school? What was the interaction like with staff and students in the school? And we can just break that down to just all aspects, all components of being in leadership. What does the film, what does the reflection say about us in our practice? See, so I can't tell you a day in years, decades, that I haven't hit the pause button of my life and just engaged in the analysis of my film, engaged in self-reflection. It can get mighty boring and lonely on those airplanes and those hotel rooms. But the way I utilize that time, in part, is to just disconnect from everything, put everything down, and let my DVD just run. And just watch me in action. Just watch the way I conducted myself as leader of the school when I was doing it for those 14 years. Watching myself as I taught those students when I was teaching for those 7 years. Watching myself in my capacity as speaker as I've been doing this for 32 years, right? Just hitting the pause button and just watching me. I'm asking you, and feel free to communicate with me here in the chat. Do you carve out time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, whatever's required, to just look at you? That piece is so critical. And we don't necessarily get that in grad school, in our leadership training. That we get all these aspects of leadership, curriculum, school law, school finance, and etc. But where's the course called self-reflection? See, where's the course called study your game film? Because in the NFL locker rooms, they'll spend, if they're playing on a Sunday, they'll spend the entire Monday just watching film. They're not going to practice. They're not going on the practice field. They're not putting on the pads and the practice uniform and practicing. They're just going to sit in a room and just dissect that film to see what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work, what needs to be tweaked or adjusted or changed or modified or purged, what did work, and how do we develop that? How do we enhance that? How do we make it more so advantageous for the next opponent? So I'm saying to us, because I'll take this one to my grave. What you and I do as leaders is much more significant than what a football player does on a football field. Now, somebody in PE might not appreciate me saying that, but that's okay. What we do as educators, the teacher as a teacher, you as a school leader, is much more significant than what someone does on a football field, on a basketball court, on a baseball diamond. So if the premise is correct, then I'm asking you the question. How often do you study your film of yourself? How often do you engage in that self-reflection? Because toward avoiding school leadership burnout, your self-reflection may tell you that you're doing things within your leadership capacity that need to be adjusted, that need to be tweaked, that need to be changed, that need to be purged, that need to be thought out, that need to be enhanced. See? But if you're not engaging in the self-reflection, and now you spend that long day, and then you go home, you eat, you go to sleep, and you wake up and you come back the next day and resume where you left off, you have never taken time to watch you. See, when I started looking, when I was a rookie principal, when I was new to it, I was just working those hours. Let me tell you, I was doing 12 to 14 a day. I was new. I had my hands in everything imaginable in that school. I knew everything, and I was engaged and involved in everything. I was burning myself out. So now on a Saturday, I'm in the building, and I'm bragging that I'm in the building. I'm in the building by 7:30. We got a little tutorial program in the morning. The kids arrive at 8, they stayed till 12, and then I stuck around until about 4 o'clock. That's on a Saturday. I'm spent by the end of the day. Then on Sunday, I'm back. Got a television in my office, so I got a football game on right above me, but my desk is cluttered with work. So now I'm working. I'm in the building by 9, and I'm there till about 3 or 4 o'clock. And people are applauding that. So I'm feeling like this is a good thing. The community knows I'm in the building. They see my car. They see the light on. They're applauding. Oh, man, Principal Kafele, he's the hardest working principal in the world. He's great for our kids. Not knowing I'm burning out, y'all. I'm burning out. I had to start looking at my film. And my film said, you working too hard. But you know something else my film said? My film said, you're not with your wife. You're not with your children. You're not with your friends. You have no recreation in your life. Your life is this building. This is you. You're burning out, buddy. But see, I didn't know that in the beginning. I had to figure that out. And the first way I figured it out was by carving out some time and just watching the game film, the screen, meaning watching my DVD. And my DVD said, what in the world are you doing in that building all those hours, doing all that work, when there are other ways to do it more productively? See? Hey, somebody out there, you tuned in this afternoon because you're looking for how you can avoid school leadership burnout. I'll tell you right now, you need to adjust the way you're doing some things. The way you're doing some of the things you do, some of your work habits need to be changed because they're counterproductive. They're burning you out. Because see, here's the thing. Before I move on to the second one, when we burn out, we are less productive. And as we become less productive, children are not growing the way they could be growing. And then next thing you know, we're kind of looking over our shoulder thinking, is this what I want to do with my life? Maybe I want to do something different because this is overwhelming. I'm burning out. My health is failing me. That's because you're not approaching this thing correctly. Let's look at this second one. Anna, go to number 2 for me. Let's build on that. It says, am I leading within my why? Capital letters, italicized, quotation marks again. Am I leading within my why? Let me explain what I mean by that. Why is, here I'm using another slang, very popular slang. Your why is the slang these days for the word purpose, reason, because. So I'm asking you, are you leading, are you walking within your why, within your purpose? It is easy to burn out when you are not stepping in your why, when you are not strutting within your why, within your purpose. So if we could unpack this a little bit, everybody watching this webinar, and everybody that will see this webinar, somewhere in your journey called life, it hit you. You were probably teaching, maybe you were a counselor, but you were doing something in education, and it hit you. Some of us, it hit you gradually. Others of you, it hit you abruptly. But it hit you nevertheless. It said, bam, I want to be a principal. See? Someone may have come to you and suggested it to you. You may not have been thinking about being a school leader. Someone may have stepped into your life and said, you know something? You're a leader. And you may have said, me? I'm no leader. Like that certainly happened to me. I was a follower for most of my childhood. And the next thing I know, a professor tells me I'm a leader. He said, you're a transformational leader. I'm like, right? So someone may have told you something about yourself that you didn't know. But whatever it was, it culminated into you developing this sense of reason as to why you want to lead. So in other words, you didn't say, I want to be a principal, period. You didn't do it like that. You said, I want to be a principal because, and whatever came on the other side of that because, that was probably your why. And now you went on and you got your credentials. You went to school. You accumulated your licenses, and ultimately you landed the position. Then you started working. Then as you work, the years progress for those of you who have been in it for a little while. And then here's the problem as it relates to burnout. Many of us, I've learned over the years, every time I do a presentation with principals, it manifests itself every time. Many of us, we went through our journey as principal, and life continued to happen and unfold. And those of us who began to wear down, those of us who began to feel a sense of burnout, here's what happened in that journey. That younger version of ourselves that had a why, whatever that why was, that reason, that thing that was burning inside of you, that thing that was churning inside of you, that thing that was eating away at you, that thing that occupied your thinking, that thing that occupied your conversations, that thing that you said, this is what I want to accomplish as a leader. This is what I want to do as a leader. This is what I must get done as a leader. Well, many of us, we left that over here and we moved on and we traveled, and now here we are over here. I'm saying many of us lost our way due to the ongoing challenges of the work. We lost our way because we lost our why. See, when you lose your why, it's very easy to lose your way. So in order for you to gain back your way and keep your way, you got to go back and grab your why and bring it with you. Embrace it, keep it right there on the vest and bring it with you along the way. We're in the year 2018 and almost in 2019. In 1988, I became a classroom teacher in Brooklyn, New York City. For those of you that know Brooklyn, the Crown Heights section. And when I walked into PS 221 for the first time, I walked in there for one reason. I didn't walk in there because I wanted to be this extraordinary teacher. I walked in there because I wanted to be a lesson, a model, and an example for the young men that I was about to meet. That was my why. I was in Brooklyn. I'm African American. 100% of those kids were either African American or African Caribbean. And I learned very quickly that 90% of them were going home to fatherless households. I said, I want to be that I want to fill that void. I want to be that lesson, that model, that example, that teacher of what it is to be a young man for those boys. That became my why back in 1988. That defined my existence as a teacher in that classroom. Well, let's do the math. That was 1988. It's 2018 now. That's still my why. I haven't changed, folks. I walk in a very narrow path. That's the fuel that keeps me waking up in the morning. That's the fuel that keeps my fire blazing and raging, because I have not left my why behind. My why is right here with me wherever I walk. My question to you, did you have a why back when you decided to lead? And the answer is, I know you did. Did you have a why that was more than just to make a difference, to make an impact? Because I love children. When you dig deeper, what was that why? What was that reason? What was that explanation as to why you wanted to become a leader? And are you walking in it today? And if you're not, it's probably because you left it behind and allowed yourself to be consumed by all the other challenges that come with the work. Now, those challenges are real, but we're going to talk about that as well. But first and foremost, as you study your film, and again, if someone had tuned in late, as you engaged in the self-reflection, you got to make sure that within that reflection, within that self-assessment, within that self-adjustment, that you are walking in your why. So you see yourself in your DVD, in your mind's eye, walking in your reason why you're there in the first place. I tell people sometimes, I say, the invitation to come out and address an audience, I don't say yes to everybody. I don't care what they're paying. Because if the program is not a program that's centered around education, although it could be paying boatloads of money, if the program is not centered around education, then it's outside of my purpose, and I can't accept it. I can only accept that which is within the confines of my purpose, who I am, why I exist, why I get up in the morning. Are you doing the same? See, are you walking in your why? Hey, somebody, feel free to put a comment on here. Be vulnerable. Honor, go to number 3 for me. So number 3 says, am I managing my time, or is my time managing me? Let that one marinate for a second. Am I managing my time, or is my time managing me? Yesterday, matter of fact, the day before yesterday, on Sunday, I have a closet literally right over here. I'm sitting right in my kitchen, as you can see, and this is where I do all my webinars and lives and all that podcasts. I sit right at the kitchen table. And on Sunday, I went to this closet right over here, and I was looking for something. And in looking for something, I stumbled on something else. I stumbled on all my old lesson plan books from when I was a teacher. So I grabbed the first one when I was in a district called East Orange, which was 1992, East Orange, New Jersey. And I opened it up, and I was looking at all those plans I wrote. And I said, wow, look at this. And I thought about the fact that as a teacher, I was spending all day writing these lesson plans. And as I tell school leaders all the time, because this is not one of the new thoughts, it's just that this is the first time I looked at my plans since I wrote them back in the 90s. And I said, wow, as leaders, no one requires us to write a leadership plan. We write strategic plans, but that's a different animal. That's a different discussion. But I mean a weekly leadership plan. Unless you have that kind of self-discipline, you may not do that. In fact, before I go on, let me just see what this comment says. Sometimes one has a why, but the situation and the scenarios don't let you hold to it. What to do in such situations? I'm going to give me a minute. I'm going to answer that. So I'm saying here. Matter of fact, I'm going to answer within the body of what I have presented today. I got you. So I'm saying here that you and I, as leaders, cannot afford to walk into a building and just kind of let it come to us. Let the day come to us. You and I can't afford for that to happen. You and I, on the other hand, have to get ahead of the week. So we write a plan of what the week will look like. What will Monday look like from the time I walk into the building until the time I leave? See, as a principal, I had all that written out. I couldn't just walk into the building and let life happen. I needed to get ahead of life. I know that I could not anticipate everything that would come my way. I know that. But I do know I could write in advance what I anticipated my day to be, what I anticipated my week to be. I knew I could write that. So now there was a higher probability that my week was going to be what I wanted it to be because I already saw it in my mind's eye. So it's Sunday morning and I see Monday the whole day. I see Tuesday. I see Wednesday. I see Thursday. I see Friday. I see the whole week and I'm sitting on the couch in my gym shorts on Sunday, right? So I have planned it out before I even went to sleep Sunday night to get ready for Monday. I have sent staff a bulletin that tells them everything they need to know to start the week successfully, and send it on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. So on the dot, so staff knew, those that wanted to read my bulletin on a Sunday, they knew when it was coming. They knew it wasn't going to arrive later than 10 o'clock a.m. on Sunday morning. So here's my point. I had a plan written because I got to manage my time, y'all. I can't let that time rule me. I can't let time control me. I can't let time be my boss. I got to manage it. I got to run it. I got to be the boss of it. So I'm writing out what my week is going to look like, knowing that there are going to be circumstances that are going to take me away from that plan. But I still have that plan documented, right? So, but secondly, in conjunction, as I said before, I've also given the teachers everything they need from the vantage point of me, from the leader. Everything they need, information upon information. I've even given them literature, just in terms of the professional growth, on a Sunday morning, right? So I'm saying all that to say, I'm looking at time. So then within the plan, let's break the plan down a little bit more. I'm looking at how I use my minutes. That question in part is a time management question. Again, it says, this is one of my greatest challenges, far too many meetings. Oh, this is a different one. Emails and much more in my daily schedule. So let's look at that one in conjunction with the previous question. You and I have to look at those minutes. See, to the lay person, a minute is a minute. A minute is 60 seconds, right? It's a minute. But to us, a minute is valuable. So now you and I have to look at the minutes compiled and look at our leadership, look at our practice, and say, how am I utilizing each minute? What am I doing? In what way am I wasting minutes? Because I promise you, it's just for far too many meetings. The meetings are sometimes the meetings that are called by your superiors, you can't control that. But the meetings that you run, the meetings you lead, and the meetings that the key staff members lead, you have control over those, because you have control over those agendas and how we're going to adhere to an agenda. Like, I remember working for a superintendent one year, if I could continue to address this particular comment. And this particular superintendent, the average meeting lasted the entire day. I never experienced anything like that in my life. I had several superintendents over the years. So I'm not putting that person on the spot if they're on here. They don't know who they are. But these meetings literally lasted, when I say the entire day, I'm not exaggerating, the entire day. And the reason was very simple. I used to sit there knowing, but I wasn't in position to say anything because it was my superior and all that. I said, I'm just going to go with the flow on this. But I said, I'm not going to make the same mistake that this person's making in my own meetings. If this individual had just stuck to the agenda and not deviate from the agenda, the meetings would have been over within 45 minutes, maybe 30. But because of this superintendent's misuse of time and misuse of our time, those of us sitting in those meetings, then everybody suffered. It had a ripple effect all the way to the children, because now I'm not allowed to be instructional leader during that time. I can't be in classroom, so therefore teachers don't benefit from my leadership in that moment. So it had a ripple effect all the way to the children. And one could even go further and say all the way to the community as you break it down. So I'm saying here, I couldn't change that person, but I could sure learn from that person to say, let me not use my time that way. Let me make sure that every minute counts. So let me write out the plan, analyze the plan, study the plan, and make sure that I am not misusing any of those minutes. So you take, for example, if I can just give you an example, since this is a quick webinar and we're already at 3:40, the cafeteria. Students are at lunch. In terms of my leadership philosophy, my leadership style, I had a need to know every student in the building and to know them, their name, and their story. I just had that need, which was rooted in my own philosophy of leadership, my own style of leadership. I had a need to know my kids as if they were my own. So how am I going to do that? I'm the principal. I'm not in the classroom teaching. Well, there are a lot of ways. Let me just give you this one because I still got a few more of these bullet points I want to show you. The cafeteria. I'm going to have lunch with the students, y'all. I'm talking high school. I'm talking middle school. I was a leader in both levels, and then as a teacher, I was an elementary teacher. I ate lunch with my class every single day, bar none. But why, Principal Kafele? Because when I'm in that cafeteria sitting at those tables and spreading myself around different tables every day, creating a culture within the school where it's acceptable for the principal to sit at lunch tables with teenagers who are engaged in teenager conversation, but it's okay for the principal to be there. It's not an imposition on their time, their space. Now I can get to know my kids. Now I can get to engage with my kids on a different level, not on an academic level, because I don't want to impose on them during lunch academically. But we can talk sports, we can talk life, we can talk politics, we can talk current events, we can talk whatever. We can talk urban challenges. I mean, whatever it was. Now, through the utilization of time strategically and differently, I'm using the lunch time to eat lunch. I'm eating. I'm paying for a student lunch. And I'm engaged in conversation with different groups of kids every day. I'm maximizing my time as opposed to being somewhere cooped up in an office, having a quick lunch, which is not healthy, but wolfing down a lunch, but isolated, not being with the people I need to be with, in this case, the kids. So looking at my schedule, looking at how I'm utilizing time, looking at how I want to manage time as opposed to time managing me. And now I'm in the cafeteria bonding with kids. And it's not just getting to know them for the sake of knowing them, but it's the bond that's important. It's the culture that's important, that we have a culture where we dig our principle. Our principal is all right with us. We have no issue with our principal being in our space. And now learning from him on another level. I wanted to be that guy, and it allows me to utilize my time differently. See, so many more examples with managing time, but let me just keep going here. Okay, so it's 3:43 already. Number 4, Anna. Let me read this question before I go. How long were your Sunday morning messages to your faculty? Good question. These also take good time to prepare and write. To that person, think about an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Matter of fact, think about an 8 by 14, and it was at a 12-point font. And pretty much, I varied between an 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, 12-point font, double space between points, and it was a lot of information. But as you just said, yeah, it took time. But you know something? That time was valuable for me. It didn't take my whole day. It took me about an hour to prepare that staff bulletin. What took more time was my leadership plan. But my staff bulletin, because all that information is in my head. Because here's the thing, and I guess I should have said this before, but I'm rushing. Everything in that bulletin, hear me somebody, I didn't want to cover that in a staff meeting the next day on that Monday, because the bulletin was staff meeting material. Well, I got my staff for 90 minutes tomorrow, meaning the next day. I don't want to deal with that, those administrative issues in a staff meeting. I want to put my professional developer hat on. And I want to be professional developer in my staff meeting. I want to bring supervisors and directors who are professional developers into my staff meeting. I want to spend those 90 minutes talking, teaching, and learning. I don't want to deal with the copier. I don't want to deal with the paper supply. I don't want to deal with the fire drill. I don't want to deal with the, please be sure to stand at your door between classes. I don't want to deal with that stuff at the staff meeting. That is a misuse of time. I don't want to deal with dress codes and passes and what time kids can go to the bathroom, the restroom, and all that stuff that we have to deal with. that building management stuff. I don't want to spend, here you and I, we have our staff for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever the case may be. I don't want to spend 90 valuable minutes talking about what time kids can go to the bathroom, right? How many kids can go out at a time with a pass? I want to talk about how we raise achievement levels, how we get kids to, how we ensure kids get into colleges, how we ensure that kids get scholarships, how we ensure that parents and families are engaged. So I'll put that in the bulletin, see? I'll send that. So now the staff meeting is the bulletin. I'm just going to remind my staff to read it, and now I can engage in teaching and learning professional development at my staff meeting. See the difference, folks? See how I'm utilizing my time so that I'm managing my time and not the time managing me? Imagine you and I spend 90 minutes having back and forth about how many kids can be out of class to go to the restroom at the same time, right? About standing on your post at your door between classes, about the shortage of paper in the copier machine, about the broken copier, right? And all that other kind of stuff that we deal with. Man, that's a misuse of my time. I type that out on Sunday morning, hit send, bam, it's there. Now I can deal with what's important, right? What type of things do you plan out for the week? Primarily to that person, my instructional leadership. I mean, the main thing was, how do I ensure that I spend quality time in classrooms every day? I got it down to a science in my latter years. You know, I told you I did this for 14. So when you talk about years, say, somewhere around my last 6 years, last 5 to 6 years, it was like I do my morning message in the morning, and that's a whole other discussion, which wouldn't fall under burnout, right? But I do my morning message, and then I say to my secretary, my head secretary, hey, Miss Kennedy, I see you at about 1 o'clock. Now, it would be about 8:30. Hey, Miss Kennedy, I see you about 1 o'clock, because I got it down to a science. So now I'm going to spend my time in classrooms, but I'm also going to spend some time in those cafeterias during the lunch period. But the obvious question is how. Somebody's asking without writing, how you doing that? How you going 8:30 to 1 and you're not seeing your head secretary? Let me go to number 4 and answer that question. It says, do I ever major in the minors due to minimizing what matters most and maximizing what matters least? Let me say that one again. Do I ever major in the minors due to minimizing what matters most and maximizing what matters least? See, a lot of times when we're in leadership, we're majoring in the minors, man. We're putting all our energy and effort in the minors. And see, I'm an urban guy. I'm a guy that's accustomed to inheriting schools with test scores in the teens. You know, 18% proficiency in mathematics. You know, 20% proficiency in language. That's my world. So I can't major in the minors, and I have nobody achieving in my school except 18%, which had nothing to do with me. That's what I inherited. So now I've got to restructure, but I can't burn out in the process. So to avoid the burnout, go to number 5, Honor, because I want to talk about how to avoid that. It says, is the difference between leader and boss evident in my leadership? See, if you and I are operating as the boss, you're going to burn out. Because all you're doing is you telling folks what to do all day. You holding folks accountable all day. You got your hands in everything all day. You the boss. And some of us, you know, particularly when we're young, that title, you know, that slang, it feeds the ego. I'm the boss. I'm in charge. But when we transition out of that thinking, and we see ourselves as the leader, that's a different conversation there. The leader. Here's why. Look at number 6. Go to number 6, Anna. Because number 6 says, am I a lone ranger in my leadership, or have I developed a solid, cohesive team? Now hear me, somebody. I'm stringing all these together, including what was asked before about walking in one's purpose. I learned many years ago, I mean, one has to be very comfortable in their own skin to. I said, I do not have to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I said, I am not. If I'm having a staff meeting, then I have concluded in my mind that I am not the smartest person in the room. I'm comfortable with that. Any staff meeting, if I'm out doing a workshop, a seminar, a keynote, and I'm the one that's the so-called expert that's delivering the information, I am good with the fact that I am not the smartest person in the room. See, you and I can't be that Lone Ranger. There are people in that building who are brilliant, but the question becomes, how are you utilizing them? See, my burnout days came to a conclusion when I started tapping into all them brilliant people in my building. When I started tapping into them folks going beyond their job description. There were folks in the building, every school I led, 4 of them, that had hungry staff members that wanted to do more than just teach. In fact, any given school, there are folks in there who want to sit in your seat. They want to be leader. And I'm not threatened by them folks. So if you want to do what I do one day, let me begin to empower you now. Let me begin to tap into your strengths so that now I got all this human capital spread throughout the building. I got all these human resources spread throughout the building. I don't have to be a Lone Ranger. I've got teachers. I've got secretarial staff. I've got administrators. I've got counselors. But watch this. I got custodians. I got the nurse. I got security. I got all these folks who can do more than what the job description says that they have to do. And I'm going to empower these folks because they want it. They're hungry. So I'm going to give them the opportunity to spread out and do more. And what that does, it relieves me of a ton of work that I used to do. So now I've got folks, so to give you something concrete, you think about, we have so many programs, including just the assessment preparation programs. I had so many teachers that took those and ran with them. Scheduling, for example. I didn't have to do that. I've got teachers who will run with that, and I will oversee the process because I still need my thumbprint on it. But I'm not going to be Lone Ranger. I'm not going to work in isolation. I'm not going to do this thing by myself. Let me see what this says. I'd love to know what you use to give teachers feedback when you're visiting classrooms every day. How much daily time do you set aside to visiting classrooms, and how many classrooms did you visit per day? I hope you're still there. That feedback. Let me show you, put this on the screen. You see this thing right here? Oh, man, what a blessing that became for a school leader. And even when it was a flip phone, as long as it had texting capability, I said, you know, teachers, if you and I go and visit a classroom at, let's say, 8:30 in the morning, and we're not going to be able to provide feedback until the end of the day, guess what? That teacher is going to be anxious for the entire day. I don't care how good that teacher is. I don't care how effective that teacher is. That teacher knows you walked in, and that teacher wants to know what's on your mind. So now these things came out. So I created a culture in the building. And I said to staff, when I come into your room, beyond a few minutes, I'm going to just send you a text or an email to let you know what I saw, and it's always going to be something positive, right? Whatever needs correction, I will deal with that at another time. In the interim, I just need the teacher to feel at ease of any anxiety. I want to allay any anxiety of my visit, so now that teacher can focus on my babies, my students, right? So I'll just send a quick text, man, that thing you did, whatever it was, that thing you said, whatever that was, I send that in a quick email. I know that teacher's going to check that email between classes, and then that teacher can be at ease because there will be nothing negative there. And then anything, again, that needed correction, I'll deal with that when I meet with that teacher at the appropriate time, right? So that was that, you know, we use that terminology, immediate feedback. That was what I used to call instant feedback, right? So there was a culture in place that provided teacher with that information, so that, because again, I need teacher focus on my youngsters, not focus on me. And I wonder what Principal Kafele is going to say to me later on. I just wanted to nip that in the bud, right? Number 7, oh, it's almost time to end it. Honor, just go ahead, number 7. Put them all up for me. 7 says, in what ways does my leadership maximize the human capital in my school, which I just talked about? In what ways, number 8, do I empower staff to do more than their job description? So I kind of combined them all and went fast and talked about that. Do I plan my week or do I react to my week? What are the activities I engage in away from work? Now this is critical. Give me like a minute. And what are the activities I engage in away from work in order to maintain balance in my life? See, if I could combine that with number 11, you got to reward yourself. You got to cut this off at some point, right? You got to close this down. You gotta have a life outside of school. You're never going to reach a day where the work is complete. It's always going to be work to do. So accept that, embrace that, and know that I can come back to it tomorrow, because you got to live your life. You got to live your family life, your friend life, your recreation life, your social life, your exercise life. Because number 12 asks, do you engage in the exercise? I went so heavy, folks. I went so hard at this work. I had a heart attack 3 years ago. Right, I had it in the middle of a keynote address, but it was because of my diet. My diet was horrible because I was working to a point, to the extent that I didn't care about what I was ingesting. I was just eating whatever, drinking whatever, sodas all the time, 6 to 10 a day, and it nearly killed me. So I'm saying to you, the exercise is a part of the avoidance of the leadership. The rewarding yourself is a part of the avoidance of the leadership. The spending your time with significant folks in your life is a part of the avoidance of the leadership. But as I close, the empowerment of others, the utilization of your time, the maximizing your time, the walking in your why, the analyzing your film, so that you don't walk away from this position. Because it's so easy to walk away from your leadership, because so many do. There's no need for you to do that. You can walk in your leadership, loving your leadership, but you got to move strategically in the process. I think that takes me right to 3:58. So are there any closing thoughts? And here you'll notice my contact page. Reach out to me at principalkafele.com. Anybody, you can just go right to the website, click the email address. You'll notice I do Facebook Live sitting in this same chair on Sunday mornings, right from this chair and table, 10 o'clock Eastern time. First Sunday for teachers, second Sunday leaders. Just follow me on Facebook and you're in. You'll see the slew of videos I have here. And then I got a brand new book out. Came out last week. Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It? Just came out, published by ASCD. You can get it anywhere books are sold, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, ASCD.org. And then I got another one coming out in 2019. So you want to be a principal? Let's talk. That's coming soon. And then you guys know the Teacher 50, Principal 50, Closing the Attitude Gap, and Motivating Black Males. That's all my information there. I appreciate you guys being here today and spending an hour with me.